Captain America is one of the most iconic superheroes in pop culture and a symbol of justice, courage, and patriotism. Created by Marvel Comics in 1941 by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, the character emerged during World War II as a symbol of the fight against tyranny and oppression. His alter ego, Steve Rogers, was a slight young man who dreamed of serving his country, but was rejected by the army due to his poor health. Determined to make a difference, he volunteered for a military experiment called Project Super Soldier, in which he was given a special serum that transformed him into a warrior with superhuman strength, endurance, and abilities. A man's true strength is not measured by his physical capacity or the heroic deeds he performs, but by the character he demonstrates in the midst of adversity. When we look at Captain America, we find a character who represents more than muscles and extraordinary abilities. Steve Rogers, before becoming the super soldier, was just a frail young man with an unshakable heart. And that's exactly what the Bible teaches about what it really means to be strong. Steve Rogers was a small boy, without impressive physical abilities, but he had an unbreakable spirit. He always said, "I can do this all day," even when he knew he was at a disadvantage. This resilience came not from his bodily strength, but from his conviction and courage. Likewise, the Bible teaches us that a man's true strength is in his heart and faith. In 1 Samuel 16, verse 7, God tells Samuel, "The Lord does not see as man sees. Man looks at the appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart." When God chose David to be king, he did not choose him for his appearance or strength, but for his heart. David, like Steve Rogers before he became Captain America, was small and fragile by human standards, but he had something much more valuable, a heart after God's heart. We often associate strength with power, domination, and invincibility. But the Bible teaches us that true strength lies in humility and the willingness to serve. Jesus, the greatest example of strength and love, said, "Whoever wants to become great among you must be a servant." Matthew 20, verse 26. Captain America does not seek personal glory. He fights for the good of others. His strength lies not just in the super soldier serum, but in his willingness to sacrifice himself for the greater good. This reminds us of Philippians 2, verses 3 to 4. "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vanity, but in humility consider others better than yourselves. Let everyone look after not only their own interests, but also the interests of others." True strength is not demonstrated in aggression, but in the ability to resist and remain firm in the face of difficulties. Steve Rogers was never someone who picked fights, but someone who was willing to stand up against what was wrong. He refuses to bow to oppression and keeps his principles intact, even when it means losing everything. This is similar to the biblical instruction at Ephesians 6, verse 13. "Therefore put on the full armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and remain steadfast after you have done everything." Remaining steadfast in the face of evil and adversity is one of the greatest signs of true strength. Captain America stands out because he is willing to sacrifice himself for the good of others. At the end of Captain America, the first Avenger, he makes a character-defining decision. He sacrifices his own life to save thousands of people. This reflects the greatest act of strength and love in history, the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. John 15, verse 13 says, "Greater love has no one than he who lays down his life for his friends." Jesus gave his life not because he was forced, but because he chose to love. This is the greatest example of strength we can find, the willingness to give up oneself for the love of others. Steve Rogers believed in something bigger than himself. Even when all seemed lost, he maintained his faith in what was right. As Christians, our true strength comes from faith in God. Isaiah 40, verse 31 teaches us, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will fly high like eagles. They will run and not be exhausted. They will walk and not be tired." A man's strength lies not in his ability to win physical battles, but in his willingness to remain faithful to God, even when everything seems to fall apart. When we trust in God, we find the strength to continue, even in the most difficult times. Being strong does not mean being invincible. True strength lies in humility, faith, love, and perseverance. Captain America reminds us that strength is not in muscles, but in character. The Bible teaches us that a strong man is one who trusts in God, loves his neighbor, and is willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good. Just as Steve Rogers showed that strength comes from within, God calls us to find our strength in him. Because, in the end, the greatest battle we face is not against visible enemies, but against everything that tries to keep us from the purpose that God has for us. And when we stand firm in faith, we can say like Steve Rogers, "I can do this all day,